Welcome to Straight Up Dog Talk, a new kind of podcast where no topic is off limits. We're bringing in experts and owners to have the conversations we should be having as a dog community. Each week, a new guest will share firsthand experiences, educational resources, or professional guidance to help you learn and grow along with your dog. You won't get one perspective here, you'll get them all, because every dog is different and every owner is too.
You can follow along on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook at Straight Up Dog Talk, or by visiting www.straightupdogtalk.com. Tune in from any of your favorite podcast platforms.
Welcome to Straight Up Dog Talk. I'm Em, and we're back again with Josh.
Hello, I'm back again.
I'm not sure how many episodes you guys have missed Josh between this episode and the last episode, but as you know, he kind of pops in and out, but we're always super happy when he's here with us.
I had some abuela drama that I had to go and deal with. So
That family drama is always the best kind of drama.
yeah.
But tonight, we have a very interesting episode. This was supposed to be a fun, lighthearted episode, and a little of it will be.
And then she ruined it.
A little bit of the episode will be fun and lighthearted, but I learned some things about Erika's dogs, Jax and Wyatt, and their origin stories that I didn't know, and I felt that they were really important to share on this episode. So, Erika, how are you doing tonight?
I'm great. Thank you guys for having me.
Absolutely. I just was really surprised when we started talking in your initial interview about the origins of Jax and Wyatt. I had no idea that you had such a difficult start with them. And I really think that it's important to share your story because I think a lot of people struggle when they get puppies, and you struggled for a very specific reason. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you ended up with Jax and go into how that led you to Wyatt.
Okay. I am in Maryland. I actually, I work in a hospital. I do physical therapy, but I'm more clinical, less clinical now and more administrative. But I had 3 senior pets and I lost them all 3 years in a row. So I lost a cat, then 2 dogs. We ended up getting senior dog to sort of be friends with our other senior dog when we lost his bonded mate. When we lost the original dog, the senior that we had, we thought would be fine by herself, and she really didn't seem to be. So in came Jax. We decided that we would get a younger dog so we wouldn't have to go through another loss too soon. We picked up Jax from a rescue in the area. She had pulled him from a shelter down in Georgia. I believe they got him about an hour before he got put down. And he was somewhere around 8 months old. So right at that super hyperactive sort of they don't listen stage. And he was a challenge, I think, from probably day one. So he was very, go ahead.
There's a very specific reason that he was super hyperactive. And I think that's the most important part to note here. So why don't you touch on that?
Yeah, I think a lot of it was anxiety from him, but he was also quite feral when we got him. He really knew absolutely nothing, no commands. He was not housebroken. He was a good 42 pounds of just energy. And, you know, we never had it before where we had a dog that really was unaware of anything. He didn't know how to live in the house. If you let him out in the yard, he didn't know to come back in. If you went and tried to get him, he thought it was a game and that we were chasing him. He would not do the typical dog thing where they're not housebroken, where they'll stop and they'll pee. He would run through the house and pee while running. Ran through the house and up the stairs one time while peeing. That was a lot of fun to clean up. He was just a lot of energy, a lot of anxiety, and he was a lot for us in the beginning. We were struggling a lot.
I can see where that would be really difficult. I mean, Fitz was a high energy puppy from the beginning, and I understand how crazy that makes you feel when you don't feel like you're in control of your dog. And to add in that little bit of feral on top of it, I I can't even imagine how difficult that was.
We were lucky in that we adopted him in November, so it was starting to get colder, and the fireplace was the one and only time that we could get 5 or 10 minutes of him not moving and barking and trying to chew on us or just getting into something. So the one place he did chill out was the fireplace, but just so much energy. We used to run him, we'd walk him multiple times a day, miles a week, and just nothing seemed to settle him down.
You said that you tried one other thing with him that ended up not panning out, but why don't you explain how the doggy daycare situation
Doggy daycare. I think probably a good 3 months into having him, we were just at a loss. Didn't know what else to do. I was having dental surgery at the time, so having him around and just being as crazy as he was a challenge. So I had my husband take him to a doggy daycare that was right up the street to evaluate him. And they, I guess, evaluated him one-on-one with other dogs. And so they brought out the small dogs first, really high energy dogs. He did fine. They brought out medium-sized dogs. He did fine. They brought out a very large, I think it was a Chesapeake Bay Retriever, and that dog barked at him, and he got so scared. He just squatted and peed and just looked pathetic. And at that point, we felt so bad, and we kind of realized a lot of this is coming from anxiety and fear. And so we had a whole new approach, at least, to kind of look at and work with him. So we did revisit doggy daycare a few years later, but he really never seemed to enjoy it too much. And we did it in the beginning. We would go and we would drop him off, and we would sit in the parking lot for a half hour and then pick him up. And that was our way to try and introduce him to doggy daycare without it being too much for him.
Some dogs are just not candidates for it. And I feel like there's a huge misconception that has been more and more revealed in the dog community is that, you know, taking your dog straight away to the dog park or taking your dog straight away to doggy daycare is not exactly the way to approach it. Now we know this, right? Like, I didn't know this. I made the same mistake. I took Fitz right to the dog park, and I ended myself with an anxious dog who's reactive to other dogs because I did that. When your dog doesn't feel in control and they don't know how to act in a situation, that's just going to make that situation even more terrible for them. And then they're going to react even more. So it's really difficult when you don't know because you don't know, right? So you're just trying all these things because you have this crazy dog and you don't know how to deal with them. But now there's all kinds of different resources available, which we hope to be one of those resources to help kind of guide people through these rough patches. So you had this really rough start with Jax, and then Wheezy passed away, right?
Right. Wheezy passed away when Jax was about 1.5 years. And she really did. She was sort of the most bomb-proof dog ever. Nothing really affected her. She really did sort of help raise him, and she kind of mothered him. She would hold him down and lick his face and clean his ears, and he loved her. But when she passed, a little selfish on our parts, but we weren't really ready to get another dog at the time. And, you know, he was about 1.5 years. I didn't want to get another young dog and then be in the same situation where I had 2 dogs right around the same age, because we had just lost our whole slew of our first pet. So we waited a little bit. And I think that wasn't the best thing for us, but we ended up waiting until Jax was almost, I think, 4 before we adopted Wyatt. Wyatt came with another whole set of issues.
As they do.
Let's talk about it.
So I think the one thing that got to me with Wyatt was he comes across as a very, very confident dog, but he is very submissive, which I kind of needed for Jax. I needed somebody that wasn't going to stress him out. He has now he's around 4. He's been diagnosed with kidney disease. He's just an anxious mess still. And I needed a dog that wouldn't create more problems for him. Unfortunately, Wyatt, we found out after adopting him, had severe separation anxiety. So that was a struggle. Wyatt could not be left at home, even with Jax there. as soon as we left the house, crated, he was screaming and howling and digging at the crate and biting at the crate. I was actually really concerned he was going to hurt himself. But on the other side to this, all of that commotion and drama from Wyatt was stressing Jax out further. He's running around trying to escape the room. It was a rough situation at first. And again, we were sort of like, gosh, what do we do now? We really weren't looking into giving Wyatt back. He was a great fit. His energy level and play style were exactly what Jax needed. We just had to get over this hump of separation anxiety.
So let's talk a little bit about the steps that you took to work through this a little bit, because I know that you said he still does have a touch of this separation anxiety, but you have found ways to modify the situation to help him do better.
So initially, I think we had cameras on the dogs so we could watch them, and we really were in a stuck position. I think my husband took off the first week that we had Wyatt because we could not leave him. I think we had to run to the bank to get something notarized, and so we have them on camera. And at that point, I had stopped putting him in the crate, and we just gated off a room, which made me a little nervous having two dogs together like that didn't know each other that well. But Wyatt was pretty destructive. He started pulling things, timers out of the wall and chewing those. We're yelling at him through the camera. He's not paying attention. Jax is in a panic. So, people in the bank probably thought we were crazy, but we ran home and took care of it. After that, we started from the very beginning. We talked to our vet about medication, but he said the medication's not really going to do anything if you don't fix the underlying problem. So at that point, we said, okay, fine. We'll start working on ways to get him acclimated to being at home alone, or at least at home with Jax. And that started out with us going out into the garage for 5 seconds and coming back, and then for 10 seconds and coming back, and then getting in the car and coming back. And it would progress. And this is over the course of probably 2 years that we did this. We were really stuck at home. It was definitely a struggle. Ultimately, what we ended up doing, and thank goodness it worked for Wyatt, was putting him in doggy daycare when we were at work. So he went to daycare 3 days a week because we were able to work from home or not be at work on some days during the week. The rest of the time that he wasn't in doggy daycare, we were still trying to desensitize him to, okay, we're going to leave, but we're going to come back. So we progressed from a couple of minutes to we drive down the street and sit at the school and watch him on camera until he started getting upset, and then we'd come home again. But he was howling, barking, screaming, just making a lot of noise. And I think probably about 2 years of daycare, and we started to notice different changes in him, is that he wasn't really so amped to go to daycare anymore. He seemed okay to be at home. So we started trying, let's try a day at home, and let's try not to do daycare all the time. And it worked. He was okay that way. Now, the one thing I've not tried is having him at home without Jax. I think that would probably trigger him again. So we have not done that. We did, if I could remember when it was, we went to the beach one year. We took his crate with him, and we thought we would be okay because we kind of had the separation anxiety under control at home. And we went to the beach, and it was like starting brand new again in a different environment. He went right back to the way he was. I don't think we saw the beach the whole week we were there.
So that's kind of the thing that I would really like to touch on here, is because dogs don't generalize like people. They don't understand that one behavior that works at home doesn't translate into a different scenario. And so it's like step by step, like you did, building up his confidence that you were going to come back. You're basically starting that all over again when you change locations, because until he realizes, oh, this is the same pattern, he's going to continue to react the same way he previously had, because he doesn't understand the association of, oh, we're sleeping in this place, they will come back, because dogs don't think like that. They only live in the moment. So that's definitely a lesson that everybody can learn from, because dogs are 100% situational. So if they're doing really well at something at home, and then you progress to the backyard, and then you progress to the front yard, and now you're walking down the block, and now you're walking across the street and they're triggered, well, you got to go back to just walking down the block and then slowly work to walking across the street. And that's because that's how dogs work. But the more they learn this lesson, the quicker they recalibrate every time they get into these new situations. So you've clearly have taken the time to learn to understand how your dogs think and work and how they react. Now, in the middle of all of this, you had another issue with Jax and sound sensitivity. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Jax has always been a little bit noise phobic. Loud noises scare him. He will no longer come into the kitchen if I'm cooking because one day we set off the smoke detector. So that tends to spook him. 4th of July, we have an entire routine that we do. But I think we were walking midday, mid-August. Not a day you would expect to hear fireworks. We were halfway down the block and somebody set off fireworks middle of the day. He went into a complete panic. Luckily for me, this dog always just wants to run home when he gets scared. So we quickly ran him home. He was shaking, he was drooling, he was panting, just very, very anxious. The fireworks didn't continue, and we didn't really think anything of it after we got him settled and got him calmed down. The next day, we went to go for a walk, and he put the brakes on, and he wasn't coming out of the house at all. And I thought, okay, he's just a little nervous. We tried to coax him out with treats. He wasn't having any of that. I wasn't going to force him. So we said, okay, we'll just let him stay. We took Wyatt for a walk. The next day, same thing happened. The next week, the next month, the same thing kept happening. He wasn't going to leave the house. So we reached a point where I think it was a little bit over a year that we did not walk this dog. I would come home every day and we would play ball in the backyard to at least exercise him and get him running and get him smelling things. But we could not get him to come out of the house. If we got him out, he wanted to go right back in. He was terrified.
Now,
so we did. Yep, go ahead.
You said that you reached out for help on this one because this one was the one that you had stacked so many things at this point. So you reached out to a vet behaviorist. How did they help you get through it?
So she came in and did an evaluation. And I think what she saw was a little different from what we saw, but she saw a lot of anxiety from him. We did get him at that point. We were able to get him, I think, out of the house into the sidewalk. And so she could kind of see once you got past a certain point of our house, he panicked. He was really afraid. He was extremely noise sensitive, a door, a car, somebody slamming a lid, and he panicked and wanted to go right back home again. So she kind of we looked at his food. We looked at, do we want to medicate him? But because, again, of his kidney disease, we didn't really want to add medication to him. So she had put him on a supplement you can get at the grocery store. And she wanted us to try that. It was sort of going to help him just calm down. She wanted us to avoid certain grains in his food. And, as they could set off anxiety more in dogs that were prone to it. At that point, I think we had just decided we're just going to make a switch anyway. And we swapped him over to raw food. So switching his diet to raw food, but trying to balance that with the kidney disease was another challenge that we faced with him. But we did start to notice an improvement in his anxiety levels and going outside. What we found worked for him was that if we made him aware of he was out for a walk and he got scared, we would take him home immediately. We wouldn't force him to continue the walk. And so I think that's what also made another change for him. So if it was just a matter of we got down to the end of the street and he said that was enough, we would just bring him home. And I think he started to trust that. So we finally did progress from there. He still is a little noise phobic on walks, but he gets a little scared. He starts to walk a little faster. He pulls a little bit more, but he usually will settle back down pretty quickly now.
I love that you were open to trying different things and that you were able to find something that worked for him. This is kind of a topic that people get a little controversial about, is the raw diet. Yep. So let's talk a little bit about how you decided that the raw diet was right for them. Let's talk about the food that you use and talk about all the positives that have happened because of the diet change.
Okay. So let's see. When Jax was about 3-ish, somewhere in that range, 3 to 4 maybe, we realized that the food, he was always a bad eater. He did not like kibble. When we lost Wheezy, he really went off of his food. So trying to get this dog to eat was becoming such a challenge. Wyatt has always been a great eater. It doesn't really matter what you put in front of him, he'll eat it. But Jax was another whole story. And I was concerned about him not getting food with the kidney disease and, all the problems that can go with that. Started doing a lot of research. I took him to a holistic vet, and she was the first person to mention raw to me. And I thought, isn't that counterintuitive if we're trying to get him on a low protein diet? But she said, from her standpoint, the low protein diet was really not the place to go with his kidney function where it was at this level. And it was just going to do more harm than good. At that point, he'd already been on kind of a low protein diet, and he was miserable. He had no energy. His fur looked awful. He just didn't look happy. And we switched him over to a raw diet. She said, just switch him. Don't incorporate it in. Don't go slow. Just switch him. And I completely thought she was crazy, but I did what she told me to do. And he acted like it was the greatest thing he has ever eaten in his life. And he was so happy. So through trial and error, we finally figured out the right course of food for him. But we ended up going with a fermented dog food. So we use Answer's pet food. And because of his kidney disease, half of his calories come from milk products, from liquid, either raw goat's milk or raw cow kefir. So Wyatt was also switched over because it was just easier in feeding both of them the same thing and not having to deal with it. And so since I've had them on raw, I have noticed such changes, but the biggest one would be his level of energy has gone through the roof. And Jax is now 11. Wyatt will be 9 this year. And they have more energy, I think, than they did when we first got them. So it's been great.
We have just recently switched to the Open Farms raw kibble mix. So it's grain-free kibble, and the other part of it's freeze-dried raw. I haven't made the jump to go fully over to raw yet, just because Toby has pancreatitis and he can't have a raw diet because of that. Right. And I don't want to give, like you said, one dog one thing and one dog another thing. They're already on 2 different kinds of Open Farms. So, but it's shuffling everybody around. But I really think that there are some benefits to raw diets. I've really done a lot more research and I've learned a lot more. But the energy level, the dental health levels, and like their overall gut and mouth health is just so much better in the statistics that I was just shocked. So I had a picky eater too. Fitz was like not eating his food some days. Right. Some days he would. Some days it would be 3 days. And after talking to several different people, some who've already been on the show, the common theme was Open Farms, Pet Matrix supplements, and we're still looking for a mushroom supplement. But it has made such a difference in both of my dogs. The allergies, the red tear stains are gone, the itching, and coming home and seeing that Fitz has eaten his entire bowl of food is just so satisfying. Like, I'm happy because I know that he's happy. I mean, there's lick marks on the bowl. That would never happen before.
I used to not be able to, I couldn't get Jax off the sofa to eat before. And now he lets me know if I'm late in getting dinner. So he's much happier. There's literally one downside that I found to raw, which is, travel with raw, which is always a little bit of a challenge, but we have a cooler, so we manage it. But his toenails now are so strong that I have to use a Dremel to cut them. So he's doing great. They grow pretty fast now. Their fur is so much better. They don't have that oily film that they used to get from eating what they were eating before. It's been great. They're thriving on it. And to date, like I said, he's going to be 11 next month. his kidney values are still sitting where they were 8 years ago.
I love that. I absolutely
Me too.
love that. I love hearing stories where owners made positive changes for their dogs that maintained their current health status or made it better. So major props to you for listening and tuning in to your dog's needs, because I think that kind of gets lost in translation a lot. I think that people worry too much about the stigma that's associated with raw, or they worry, you know, that they're feeding, you know, they're spending too much money on what they're feeding their dogs, or, you know, it really can go from one extreme to the next. But really just finding what's right for your dog and what makes your dog healthy, that's all that matters. I don't care if you feed kibble. I don't care if you feed raw. As long as it works for you, that's all that matters.
Whatever works the best. Yeah.
We kind of skipped over this a little bit when we were talking, because we jumped topics here a little bit between the sound sensitivity and Wyatt and his fear of being left at home. And the accumulation of the two things there ended up in kind of a crazy incident that you ended up posting about on TikTok.
Oh, the sofa.
Yeah. Why don't you tell everybody that story?
So this was early on in having Wyatt, and, you know, we knew he had the separation anxiety. I stupidly assumed that if I was just in the yard, that would be okay, because he would be able to see me in the yard. So I'm not sure if it was true separation anxiety or just excitement, general anxiety. Not sure what was happening.
Boredom.
We were in the front yard. They could see us. And we were probably out there for a good hour, I think, raking leaves. And at one point I came in and I kind of peeked in the room a little bit because Jax was running back and forth. And I was just kind of like, what's going on? Jax, everything's fine. We're right out here. There's nothing to worry about. But I didn't actually stick my head around the corner and look in the room. So what I didn't see was the destruction that Wyatt had just wrought. And he had pulled the entire sofa apart. The cushions were off. He had torn the cover. He had ripped open the arm of the sofa and exposed the plywood, and just had foam everywhere. And was just having a grand old time. But this was completely stressing out Jax, who was running back and forth. And I didn't even notice it. So I went right back outside and continued raking for like another hour before coming in and seeing what had happened. So that was fun. I think that was the most destruction I think I've ever had with a dog. I don't think I've ever had anyone do too much damage prior to that. But we still have the sofa. We put another cover on it and you can't tell.
I mean, repurpose, right?
The dog sofa.
The dog sofa.
They still love the sofa. They still lay on it.
It's crazy, you know, the destructive. It's crazy how we don't like identify those behaviors. Like Jax is running up and down and you're just like, you think that it's one thing, but it's actually something else. It's just so funny that you know, he was trying to tattle on him and it didn't work.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just
Mom's gonna be so mad at you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it was definitely a funny moment. And I did post that on because I'm like, everybody thinks Wyatt is so sweet and innocent, but Wyatt was my most destructive dog.
He does look very sweet and innocent.
Destroyed anything.
Well,
yeah.
They destroy the stuffies like champs.
They do. And they actually got to another one last night. But it's only the big ones. And it's really when they get into playing tug of war with each other. That's when they really love to destroy them. So now I found a place that has them really cheap. So I can give them to them and let them just go at it. Well, but I have bins of other toys that have not been.
Mm-hmm. That was when I had my Orkies. It would be like, especially, well, okay, Odie would just destroy. Oliver would be like, I'm holding this toy. This toy is the greatest thing in the world. And it would be months. He'd take it with him everywhere. It would be his best friend. And one day, that toy did something to him because he would just destroy. And Artemis, my current dog, when she wants, she doesn't really destroy. She she performs surgery.
Mm-hmm.
Like she will remove the eyes first and then find a stitch.
A seam.
And find a seam and then just like nip all the way down the seam to open the toy. Like she is, it's funny how dogs are very different in how they approach different toys. Because Odie, it'd be like, I either will have this toy forever or I will destroy it day one.
Yep. Yeah. And we've talked about this before too, about Toady and Odie would get together and it would just be, it was like Jax and Wyatt. If you when you look at Jax and Wyatt's videos, it's like a snowstorm because they're much bigger dogs. Speaking of much bigger dogs, why don't you talk about their size and their breeds? Because you did a DNA test on one, but not on the other. Is that correct?
DNA test on Jax. And honestly, what prompted this was me trying to figure out if he had something in him that would account for the kidney values being slightly tend to be more muscular, tend to naturally have. So it was just for this kidney thing. What he came back as, now he's from Georgia, so very common down there to have hounds, Plott hounds. He's got a lot of brindle, which is not as noticeable, I think, now as when he was young, but when he was younger, he was completely black on top, and his legs and his undercarriage are all brindle. And he has a very thick mohawk that runs from the top of his head to his shoulder blades. It sticks up about a good inch, and it just grows straight up. So we kind of just wanted to know what he was. And so he came back as lab, and mostly lab and staffy, German Shepherd and Chow, and miniature poodle. Not sure how that fits in. Wyatt we've never done, and we probably should, but I think Wyatt is probably beagle based on the howling and the white tip on his tail. I guess he could be foxhound too, and German Shepherd. Most people that would see us walking Wyatt in the neighborhood always thought he was a German Shepherd puppy, but we were like, no, he's an adult. Wyatt is right around 50 pounds and Jax sits right about 58, 59 pounds. So they're not too bad. My last dogs were 95, 70. So these guys are kind of small compared to what I'm used to.
Yeah, it's actually funny because I went from really big dogs. My original 3 were 90, and 120, and now I have 12 and 50. And
I went the other way. Yeah, Artie is just under 50, probably like 46, 47. 50 is what she has been to 50, and we needed to scale her back. But before that, Odie was 8 pounds and Oliver was 12. Wow. Tiny dogs. So this is people have said this is my first quote unquote real dog.
Your first real dog. Yeah. Cause you had a big dog.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm always nervous around small ones. I feel like I'm going to step on them. I can't really step on big dogs, but my friend had a miniature dachshund, and I always worried that I was going to pick my foot up and put it down on the dog.
Odie, my 8-pound Yorkie, I would walk around the house and he would be sitting on my shoulder like a parrot, and he loved it. He thought it was the greatest thing in the world.
Parrot.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
I can't do that with Artemis.
No, probably not comfortably at least.
No,
I cannot.
She thinks she's a lap dog though. Her new thing is to get in the chair with my wife,
which is adorable. Because she just she gets in the chair with her and then she sits, but instead of sitting like a normal dog sits, she leans back like she's reclining, and she just falls right into Jen in this
That's funny.
totally awkward position, but it's absolutely darling.
Yeah. And we just had 20 inches of snow over the last week. We were stuck in the house, and Artemis discovered the electric blanket.
So
now she's in the chair even more.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I would absolutely love to see how. I know Toby would love it. I don't know how Fitz would feel about it. He likes to go under the blankets, but I don't know how he would feel about the heated blanket.
Yeah. No, he's
I think Wyatt would love it, but Jax wouldn't be into it.
Yeah. He wouldn't?
No, I don't think so. He tends to lay spread eagle on his back, legs every which direction all the time. Wyatt is my one who curls up and likes to get under blankets. Jax really does not like blankets.
Artie normally doesn't like blankets. She likes to be on top of them. She likes the soft,
Yeah.
like the, what do you call them? Not down, but the really soft blankets that are like
the
Of course, I can't. There we go.
fleece.
Like a
Thank
fleece.
you.
Like,
Like a
I
fleece
can't think of the
blanket,
word.
but she'll be on top of it. We have, that's the top cover on our bed, and she
Yep.
spends probably 3/4 of the day on the bed, sprawled as much as she can to take up as much space as she can.
I'm going to switch topics on us because
Okay.
I want to talk a little bit about what drew me to your account. We're going to share your social media in the episode notes. And obviously, you know that we share the day before your episode drops so everybody can get acquainted with you and check out your account. But you do something that's really fun with your dogs. And I don't see a whole lot of this on social media until I came across your account. But you take your dog swimming.
We do.
And I love it. So let's talk a little bit about how that started and why it has continued.
So I found out about swimming actually from one of my patients who we were talking one day about dogs. She has a lot of rescues. I think at the time that I was talking to her, she had 5. And she had mentioned that she takes her dog swimming and then it might be great for my older German Shepherd for his hips. And I thought, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. So that was where we found it. And ultimately, we used to take the German Shepherd. It was great for his hips. It kept him mobile. He was a big dog. And at 13, he was still going up and down the stairs by himself. So it really did make a huge difference in his quality of life. And so once he passed and we got Jax, and Jax with all of his energy and running him and walking him really wasn't doing it, we thought, well, let's try swimming because maybe that would exhaust him. Really not knowing how he was going to react. But the only swim place I knew of at the time was in Annapolis, which was about an hour. So we used to drive to Annapolis, take Jack swimming. And the first time we put him in the water, he just flopped around like a fish. He didn't know what he was doing, but he didn't really seem scared. It just took him a little while to get it. He's never really been into the ball unless we're in the yard. So they had a fish of some sort, a plush fish that they used to throw. And he loved it, I think, because he could clamp down on it. And that would not let all the water get into his mouth. But he had a blast. And he went very quickly from swimming with a life vest on to swimming with no vest on whatsoever. And it was a great energy release for him. And now if you say the word, he knows. And he goes crazy.
I was just curious about it and deciding to look to see if there's a place like that near us. Des Moines has a place that is called Paws and Pints. It is a brewery. It is an indoor-outdoor dog park with a dog pool.
Oh, my.
I've heard of it. I didn't know that it had a pool, though. That's
crazy.
That's awesome.
Now, see, for us, that's like 2.5 hours away. I don't think that I would drive 2.5 hours to take.
Yeah.
Well, Fitz probably wouldn't like the swimming, but
Party would.
Well, and I never like to do it in groups. So, with Jax, he gets the pool to himself when he swims.
Yeah, I do really like that. I really do like that about the facility that you go to is it's like these little sectioned off pools that have ramps that go in and out of them and they can run around them, which that's, I think, my favorite part of the videos is Wyatt like running around and grabbing the fish.
Yes. Yes. So we initially took Wyatt swimming because at that point we were taking Jax regularly. We initially took Wyatt swimming when we first got him and he didn't love it. He did it. He likes to jump for the fish, but he really didn't have that much fun, it seemed. So we sort of switched things up after giving it a good long try with Wyatt. We went to the point where my husband will take Jax swimming and I will take Wyatt for like a 3-mile hike on the days that Jax goes swimming. So he gets his own time, which is actually kind of nice. Wyatt is a joy to walk. He's so much easier than Jax because he just isn't having any issues with anything. And then Jax can really focus on his swim. But at some point recently, I'd probably say in the last year, there was a time that I had some other engagement and I wasn't able to be home to take Wyatt on a walk when Jax was going swimming. And so my husband just took both dogs and he thought, I'm not going to ask Wyatt to swim. I'm just going to put a life vest on him in case he were to fall in and let him just run around and do his thing. And he ran around and did his thing. And then he ended up deciding he wanted to get into the pool. So we let him swim. And so that's what we've been doing now is we take him, we put the life vest on him and we sort of let him do whatever the heck he wants to do. Sometimes he really wants to just run around the pool. He likes to retrieve the fish from outside the pool. So he's a good little helper in that. But he eventually does like to actually get in the pool and swim around. Jax, he doesn't want to do anything but be in the pool. But Wyatt definitely gets his exercise. If it's not swimming, it's sure running around.
I feel like I need to commend you again here because this is a true showing. This entire episode is a true showing of how when you get a dog and you're responsible for this dog, you accommodate your life to the dog's needs. So thank you for being a pillar example of that because you have changed so many things about your lives to make sure that your dogs are comfortable, letting one swim, taking one for a hike because he can't be home by himself. You know, all of these things that you've done to incorporate, you know, diet, nutrition, health, swimming, walking, making sure nobody's scared at home, sound sensitivity, being a feral dog that peed all the way through your house, being a dog that ripped up the sofa because he was not happy that you were outside of the house. And you probably in those moments were frustrated and upset, but you've moved past them and you have not held it against your dogs. And that is remarkable.
Yeah, I mean, we've been lucky. I mean, we're lucky in that, you know, I mean, we don't have kids, so it's easier for us than it would be if somebody had, you know, kids and a lot of other stuff going on in their lives. But, you know, these dogs are kind of our lives. So we're good with it.
For me, I just stop at, you're lucky you don't have kids.
Yeah, but we neither of us have kids. So we're totally in the dog life situation. Yeah. The dogs are the entire focus of the world, right?
When my wife and I got together, I said, she was like, is there anything, you know, that I need to know, you know, having that initial talk. And I was like, there will always be a dog.
Yeah.
Always be a dog.
I think that's okay, though. I mean, I think there should always be a dog, too. I mean, that's just...
I grew up with a dog, and my parents had actually gotten the dog about a year before I was born. And we lost that dog when I was about 14. And I think both of my parents were just so devastated. They've never had another dog.
And
so
for some people, it's like that. You know, I think that, you know, you lose that one dog. If I hadn't had Toby when Cajun died, I don't know when I would have gotten another dog. It was 4 years before I got Fitz after Cajun died. So, I mean, there was a good gap there. But thanks to Toby, I had that space in between filled.
Well, you also were keeping busy with
I was dog sitting and dog walking and all that kind of stuff too. So yeah, I was always busy with dogs.
I always planned on just having one dog. And when I adopted the Shepherd, that was our plan. But he had a tendency to eat doorways and walls. And so we thought, well, great, we'll get him a friend and that'll solve the problem. And weirdly, it did. So we adopted a Doberman that we were told was reactive. She couldn't be around other dogs. Nobody liked her. She was getting bullied at the rescue. She was the world's biggest baby. She really was. And they bonded so closely. So we had those two dogs. And then, unfortunately, the Doberman passed before the Shepherd. So now we're in the same boat again. So we had to adopt another dog. So I got another senior. When the Shepherd passed, I thought my Pitty would be okay on her own, and she wasn't. And we just keep going down this road.
That's kind of I'm nervous to see how that goes because I would like for Fitz to be a solo dog when Toby passes because Toby's 12 or 13. I mean, we're probably getting close if I'm being real honest about that.
No.
And I don't like to think about it, but I think Fitz will be okay being by himself because he loves to be the center of attention. And I think going forward, it'll probably be just one dog for me from that point on, especially because from a training perspective, like going through this training apprenticeship and all of that, like I think I'll want to focus more attention on the one dog.
Yep. Yeah.
Let's talk about one more thing before we wrap up tonight, because Jax does something that is absolutely hilarious. Jax is a thief.
He's
a thief.
Yes. Yes.
And he's meticulous thief.
Yes. Yes. He plans it out sometimes, I think. He started this, gosh, I wish I could remember when. I think he started this from the beginning. He used to hold his food bowl. And so I think we sort of accidentally trained this, but he would finish when he was actually eating well. He would finish his food and he would hold the bowl. And so I would have to give him a treat to get the bowl. And then we started, okay, now I've taken the bowl. So now he's going to go pick up the stand that the bowl was in, and he'd hold the stand. And then I'd go give him a treat to get the stand back. And this just started to progress where you can hear him. He'll run up the stairs and he'll go on the hunt for something. And he'll look around and he'll try and find whatever it is. He has come to me with mail, with flashlights, with shampoo bottles, different various clothing. Shoes are a big favorite, shoes and socks especially. But there was one morning that I really saw the whole plan that he does in his head, because I was getting ready. I was drying my hair in the bathroom, and he walks into the bathroom, which he doesn't usually do. But he walks in and he kind of makes a loop around the bathroom, which I thought was odd. And then he walked back out and he laid in his bed. And I didn't really think much of it, but I went back to getting ready. I came out of the bathroom. I went into the closet. At that point, he jumped up from where he was. He ran into the bathroom and he picked up whatever it was he had scoped out earlier. And he took that and ran downstairs and held it until I came down and got it. Now, I guess we're lucky he doesn't actually destroy anything he steals. He just holds it until you trade it.
And the best part about it is she has videos on her TikTok and her Instagram of him stealing things. He has this like smirk on his face. Like he's so proud of himself for stealing whatever the item is. It's just hilarious. I just love it.
Sometimes you can get, when he's really in a stealing mood, you can kind of tell. And I will sit in the living room and it's just, I'll keep videoing him. He will come trotting in with whatever it is. And he just runs over and he sits down in front of the sofa every time. And there are nights, I kid you not, it's 7, 8, 9 things in a row. Sometimes it'll be the same thing. Sometimes it'll be different things. He likes my glasses a lot. If I have anything sitting out that needs to go in the recycling bin, he will grab that. He's grabbed mail. I think in the very beginning when he was a puppy, I had a picture of him. I had a book that I had just gotten, and it was Teaching a New Dog Old Tricks. And there he is holding that book in his mouth for ransom.
That's
so it's last night, you know, with the cold, we've had Arctic cold weather and ice here, and we haven't been able to walk. So last night was a true testament to his stealing. It was nonstop. We destroyed a toy. We stole a few things, you know. And Wyatt just kind of comes along for the ride because he knows there's going to be a cookie. So Wyatt is 100% about the food.
Well, I guess it works out well for both of them. Yeah, and it's entertaining for you, right?
Absolutely.
Well, we're going to wrap up this episode tonight. I hope that you guys heard some things that were relatable and that you guys understand that, you know, all these crazy things don't just happen to you. They happen to everyone. And that is what we are trying to do on this show, is just kind of normalize the chaos and help you find ways to deal with it. And moving forward, obviously, you're going to try different tactics. There's going to be different training stuff that's available. I'm going to throw in a shout out to Tulsa Pack here because Jerry is my mentor and Madison will be my mentor. They are doing a year of free training. So make sure you're watching their socials, Freed by Training and Tulsa Pack at Sailor Jerry. Wow. Sailor Jerry. Make sure you're watching those accounts on the socials because they are doing a year of free training in their posts, in their stories, helpful tips to help everybody along the way that will establish connections with you and your dog. So thank you so much, Erika, for being on this episode of Straight Up Dog Talk. And
thank you.
We will absolutely see you guys next week.
Straight Up Dog Talk was created by Emily Breslin. It is edited, produced, and co-hosted by Josh Wasta under the supervision of Straight Up Dog Talk, LLC, and Emily Breslin. If you're enjoying this podcast, follow or subscribe to be sure you don't miss an episode, and leave us a review on your favorite platform. Looking for more honest and relatable dog content? Check out our sister show, Unpacked, with Jerry Sheriff and Madison Simpson. Thanks for listening to Straight Up Dog Talk. See you next week.